There's that. Okay. Alright. Oh, check it out too. Had some fan gamer merch arrive. Oh, cam only? Do I have one of these? Yeah, what's up? Alright. Pretty sick. And the last one. I gotta frame these. Oh. Pretty sick. Happy with them. And a breach too. Is it on? Just arrived today. Gotta get them all framed up and good to go. Trying to amass excuse me, various print and poster stuff of projects we've worked on. So I can doll up the corridor to my office, you know? Doll it all up. How's everyone doing? Welcome to 2021. There is some madness going on. Various flavors of madness happening. Let's all just retreat for a second, look at some freaking game audio demo reels, shall we? Let's do that. I hope everyone had a relatively relaxing break. Got to kick your feet up a bit at least, I hope. Myself and also Cole Vertebra on our team at Power Up. We were pushing pretty hard for the Super Meat Boy Forever deadline. It released on December 23rd of last year. And the day one patch deadline was the 17th, the morning of. That was a push. And then that was my last day of working. I was like, no more! And then I played like 100 hours of Splunky 2 and drank a lot of scotch, and that was my break. So yeah, I hope everyone had a similar time with some games and whatever your respective vices might be. I won't go into depth too much on Meat Boy, but I do want to share one thing that's now like a little more public, and we can now talk about this. In Meat Boy, there's these warp zones, just like in the original Meat Boy game, right? And they're super glitchy, and we went to town on these things. One second, let me find something first. I got something I gotta show you first. I was vague tweeting a little while ago about some audio stuff I was working on. Here it is. Here's the one. Here's the tweet. There it is. Look at this nonsense. Ugly. It's real ugly. It does not look good. Excuse me while I forget everything I ever learned about fading regions. Yeah, I think 0. There's like 1 fade here. Oh, 2 fades. Sorry, there's a fade at the end also. Maybe 3. I think that's actually a separate region though. So yeah, that's about it. There's like no fades anywhere. Just letting it sound horrible. That's the goal here. And this is what this was for. Let's crank this back up again. This is one of the more fun things I've had to design in a while. These are fun. Isn't that fun? It's a fun time. There is 6 chapters and there's like 1 warp zone per, and they're all different. They're all ridiculous.
Test your meat.
The warp zone minigames themselves are freaking nuts. So like Tommy's a maniac. But yeah, there you go. Here they are. Some spoilers, sorry everyone, but there you go. Just trying to trick people into thinking that we soft locked their game. Or hard locked, I guess. The whole thing. That's a fun time. A lot of just really fun, like just manual, like select tiny region, like Alt R, repeat region times 40. Just like, that's probably fine, right? It's very, a lot of approaches that I wouldn't usually take when doing sound design. So it's pretty fun. One more, here we go. Let's go. This is like so obnoxious. Yeah, it was fun. So thank you for letting me show that off. Should post that somewhere, I guess. But anyways, that's not why you're here. Esben, I see you in the chat. What's up, pal? Is there a Michael Sterling Smith here also? I did tweet at them yesterday or today. When even was that? Recently. And I did see Esben hit me up. Oh, Mike Smith, the real Mike Smith. Okay, there it is. Well, your name is so proper, like michaelsterlingsmith.com, and suddenly it's Mike Smith. We're so, what's the word here? Familiar? Colloquial? It's not the right word. But, okay, cool, you're here. That's excellent news. Thank you for rolling in. I know it's like 1 a.m. right now for Esben, so I'm not sure where you are. You're in San Diego. It is 4 p.m. for you, Mike. We're going to do you second. Let Esben sleep, if you so choose to, at least. Yeah. Oh, thank you for the congrats on Spelunky. Yes, I finished the true ending, I guess minus the crazy post game stuff. Finished the true ending like just recently, yesterday, day before. Time is meaningless, it seems, right now. I'm sure everyone probably feels similar on your end. But yeah, put in like 100 hours ish, probably 90 or so, and finally finished the game. So it's quite a slog. Game is excellent, though. Phenomenal. Spelunky 2, probably my game of the year. So good. Damn. So good. Yeah, but so here we are, Real Talk again. We're taking a look at some game audio demo materials from a couple of people who have submitted. Esben was actually scheduled for a bit later in the year, but we had somebody cancel on us for today. So pushed you up. No sweat. Easy. Lucky you. Yeah, so we're looking at some things here. We're going to be looking at this stuff from a few different angles, and that criteria is below. These are some criteria that myself and Matthew Martinson at Clay Entertainment just kind of brainstormed up back when he and I were co-hosting this thing years back in like 2016. Just to try to, we would always look at this stuff, like whether it's just a video we saw on like the game audio subreddit, or if someone like hit us up personally and said, hey, like, what do you think? We tried to take a step back from ourselves and be like, well, what are we actually looking at though? What lens, or through what lens are we peering into this work? And yeah, so ended up with presentation and material selection, content quality, and distinctions. So for presentation, that is the site on the whole, if there is a site, and today there is indeed a site for both of them, so that's cool. Just basic stuff like navigation and information, like what's right up front, first thing you see kind of thing, and just basic biofeedback. Like we're not going to do a web design seminar here, just basic feedback. And of course, for the reel itself, like things like length and flow and information there, titling, if it's bookended with your name and contact info, that kind of stuff. We'll get to that. For material selection, we're looking at the various pieces you've chosen for your demo reel and for your portfolio, if there's a portfolio, and what those things might suggest to someone who doesn't know you very well, who is coming in blind, what that might suggest about your past work history and your current skill sets, and what you want to be doing in the future too, your ambitions. And finally, the next one, content quality, is your stuff good? Is there room for improvement somewhere? There probably is. I don't think anybody in the industry can claim they don't have room for improvement. But if you have a dearth of attention in a certain area, then I'll be happy to let you know what I think, at least. And I'm sure everyone in the chat, feel free to chime in as well. I know everyone's always very helpful here, so cheers. And finally, distinction, just are you standing out in some positive way? Since there are so many people looking for those gigs that we're all vying for, it's real important to make a positive impact, some kind of first impression, just so that even if you don't get that gig that time around, it's still it's a positive check mark in your direction, so that even if you're not hired, it might come around next time you're hired if their previous person isn't available, or perhaps you can get referred to somebody else if that developer has a peer in the industry, and that peer says, hey, you know anyone? I need some audio help. They say, well, yeah, there's a person that applied to me a while ago and they seem pretty cool, so check them out. There you go. So we're just going to jump right in, I guess. Before I do, I want to say some hellos. Natasha, good to see you. Steve, the GDQ clap. Yeah, we're going to be hosting the Games Done Quick stream after this. I was watching a little bit today. Watching Heineke's run of Deus Ex Human Revolution. So damn good. Murray Cameron Smith. Holy, good to see you. IG88 Music. Back again. Luis Man 02 Hi People. Luis Man. Luis? Just Luis? Or is it Lou Isman? I don't know. That's a name I don't recognize, so welcome on in. Perhaps you've been here before. I apologize if so. Brittany, good to see you. Logan, what's up? Baz Game Audio, what up? CJ Dietz, Matt Fisher. There's Mike Smith, the real Mike Smith. The real Michael Sterling Smith. Good. All right, Esben, glad to see you here. Presley, what's up? Presley Hines. I did not see you roll in. Good to see you. Hope you had a relaxing break. Alex Barnhart. Oh my God! If there's some gunshots in these reels, we'll have an expert in the chat to give you some feedback for sure. Alex knows his stuff. Sonic Quinn. Oh my God! Tuba Hero. What up? Cool seeing you in the chat again. Been a while. Hey guys, what up? Yeah, I've seen you tweet here and there. Tuba Hero. Good seeing you again. Shall we? Luis, I was right. I got a buddy named like Luis also, and it's Luis. I should have known. Should have gone with my gut. And the Ace Babana. What up? Solid handle. Okay, so like I was saying, Michael, we're gonna just hold off on you for the time being. If your bio is to be believed, and you are in fact based in San Diego, California, then it is early in the day, like late afternoon right now, so you can afford to wait another 45-ish or something, or 40-ish before we get to you. Yes? Sound good? Thank you for understanding. Esben is not in San Diego, California. To my knowledge, Denmark? Is that where you're at? Am I making assumptions based on your name? Or based on something you said to me? I don't recall. In my head, I think you're Danish. Is this true? What is this? The National Academy of Digital Interactive Entertainment. Denmark. Hey, got it. Okay. Aarhus. Okay, there you go. Perfect. Right. So yeah, it's late. It's late for you. So we're gonna go right now. Okay. So here we are. We're on Esben. Oh, I can't possibly say your last name, right? It can't be Nyboe if you're Danish. It's got to be like Nyboe or something like that. I'm not even gonna try it again. I'm just gonna say Esben from now on. I apologize. I'm so sorry, man. I got pals in like that neck of the woods, that part of Europe and such, and I just feel bad every time I'm trying to say their names and stuff. Just say the nicknames instead. It's easier from my damn Canadian English speaking perspective. I'm sorry. Okay, so Esben, we got the page is called Composer and Sound Designer. That's interesting. So the name, like next to us here, we have Michael S. Smith, right? So it's probably pretty small in the stream there, but just the name of the tab, Michael S. Smith, Composer, Sound Designer, and we have Composer and Sound Designer. And down here, Esben is pretty low down the page actually. Like it's your call, obviously, but just kind of surprised me that your name wasn't somewhere else. I guess it's like in the logo, kind of, the little hexagon. Excuse me. Up to you. Just a bit unusual to me to have the video like before even your name, just impressions wise. I feel it's like a psychological thing, just like push your name a lot so they don't forget. Your call. I create original music and sound effects for games. I'm also the developer of the mobile game Orbit Crusher. Oh, cool. So you do your own stuff too. Nice. Game projects. Is a vertical page? Looks like maybe. Yes. Juggernaut. Oh, this is different. I was thinking of a different game by a Minnesota team. This one. Juggernauts. Similar name. Very similar. 1 S difference. Yeah, by Space Mason Graffiti Games. Orbit Crusher, Obliterator, Juggernaut, Event Games, Black Hole, Floodlight. About me. I love designing sound and writing music that brings fictional worlds to life and invites you to immerse yourself in a story. Okay, that's why I'm so passionate about creating interactive and engaging audio for games. All right, and then we have a second. This is like the precursor, I guess, or something. And then it's like a lot of text here. My name is Esben. That's no last name. And I specialize in producing original music and sound effects for games. As a 12-year-old, I began making silly MIDI songs on my parents' desktop. And since then, I've been in love with composing music. While studying audio design, tooltips. That's pretty cool, actually. I'm into that. It's like, want to know more? Here's the gist. Okay, we'll come back to that. While studying audio design, I finally got to work on nonlinear composition, having tons of fun using Max MSP to create systems of interactive music and sound. Cool. But it was during my course in game development at this place, I got familiar with Wise and discovered the joy of working with game audio. Since then, I've practiced doing sound design and implementation for games by contributing to smaller game projects, some via internships, and participating in lots of game jams. Good for you. One of these led me to developing my first app, a rhythm-based puzzle game called Orbit Crusher, which we just saw, where I programmed an adaptive music system using Unity without middleware. Cool. I'm always excited about collaborating with game developers and exploring new ways of making engaging game audio. Okay, cool. Yeah, overall, nice. This bio is, I think, not too long. I think like one more paragraph would have been. And I like how it's got stuff about you. That's great. I'm always harping on people to make their bios less generic. So that's great. Like this part here is basically every person, right? Like this, we see like, I am passionate about creating stuff on a lot of bios. And it's like, I hope so. That's the goal. So in general, I mean, I think writing is the thing I'm worst at in the world, next to speaking, being intelligible. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, here's how you can fix it. But I think in general, I'm a fan of like editing things down and making them as minimal as possible. You know, just trimming all the fat. So in general, I like your bio though. It's cool. Yeah, I'm glad. I like these little tool tips that it's interesting because your bio isn't like short, you know, it's not super short, but this is like a kind of elegant way of shortening it and not putting like all those words in your bio, you know? It's kind of cute. Cool. All right, I would love to hear about your project, so don't hesitate to send me an email and tell me about it. If we're a good fit for one another, I'm sure we can make something great together. Oh, yo. You're selling to them. You're making them sell to you. That's excellent. Yes, it's very important. I mean, well, ideal. It's not always the luxury, but not always the luxury you have. But in general, yes, finding teams that work well for you and your goals is important too, right? So good stuff. You're considering removing that intro paragraph. I don't know. What do you think, guys? Like this one here, this opening? I don't think you need it, honestly. I mean, I think you can show people like the fact that you're making your own stuff, and we haven't watched this yet, but I mean, hopefully it will show that you enjoy what you're doing and stuff, right? Like if here's what's going to happen. Okay. People are going to arrive on your page, and they will go play, and they will click the play button. Probably they might very briefly glance over stuff and be like, okay, cool. Got it. And then like, they're probably not going to read this before this. Like a very small percentage might, kind of thing. So they press play, And if it's awesome, they go, oh, sweet, Esben knows his stuff. And then we roll down the page and we look at more things, right? That's kind of the general flow usually. So if it turns out that your stuff's awesome and you're like making your own games and stuff, like I don't think you'd be doing that if you didn't have a passion for creating interactive and engaging audio for games. Like this is the kind of thing you can show and you don't really need to tell us, you know? Whereas you can't really show us that you went to this school. Does that make sense? Like as far as bio stuff, this kind of thing makes sense up in here. Like talking about your history and stuff more than just saying like, I am passionate about games and game audio, you know? All right. Send a message or just want to say hi. Okay, music composition, sound design, recording techniques, as well as Unity and Wise. This is interesting. Having this here on your contact page, I don't know that I've ever seen that before. But it kind of makes sense. It's like, hey, just as a quick reminder, if you're looking to get in touch, here's what I'm good at. That's, I don't know. It's possible. Excuse me. I feel like for the most part, if people are going to contact you, they already have an idea that they want to contact you, though, you know? Like if they're on this part of your page, they're probably going to use the form. Like if they've sought out this part of your page, they're going to contact you. I don't know that this is going to be like the selling point, like the closing the sale, you know? You can probably put that in your about me just as like a bullet point thing or something. I've seen in the past people have like their bio and then they have kind of like the TLDR bullet point version of it below that has like, here's what I know, like the apps and software and, you know, soft skills and so forth, hard skills. Kind of like an abridged resume almost. Because yeah, that's a little more like about me than it is a contact. But again, your call. Totally your call. That's it. Oh, listen, what's this? I just stopped at contact. I would assume contact's the last one. Music. Time of Flies, Fly vs. Man game soundtrack. Okay. Then we got the contact info and the same stuff as the top. Okay, cool. Well, let's go ahead and actually I'm curious. Instagram, what we got? We have game relevant things. Nice. Cool. And YouTube and stuff. All right, let's go full screen and turn the volume up on all of the things. It's up, it's up, it's up. Turn off my side chain out of respect for you. It's 1:32. It's a bit on the long side for my personal, preference, but we'll see. Maybe it kicks ass. We'll see. Play. Cool. Seemed pretty music heavy. That opening clip was pretty sick though. The 5/4 rhythm game. Nice. I think it was 5/4 at least, if I recall in my mind's ear. Yep, nice. Very nice. Tubi Hero says, dig in the ambient music. Can't really hear much in the sound effects, though. Yeah, the sound effects were like kind of focused in the front. Like there's plenty of sound and music, you know, intermingling in this opening clip, but in the further ones, it was pretty music heavy, it seemed. Especially in Juggernaut and the Fly one. That's the big one. Okay, so lengthwise, it wasn't like egregiously long. 132 is kind of, I mean, like 130 is generally the cap, like the max of the recommended range of time. People are like, yeah, a minute to minute 30 is kind of all you need. And a minute 30 is usually, in my experience, is usually more generous, like on the generous side. It's pretty rare that I see a 130 demo reel and I think to myself after, you know, watching the whole thing, I'm like, yeah, that had to be 90 seconds. That was like, we needed those last 30 seconds. I think it's probably safe to say you could trim, you know, a quarter off of each of these things and be fine as far as the demo reel goes, you know? Because the thing is, on your main page, you've got these other projects. I'm curious what happens if you click these. Orbit Crusher. Right, so we have a little more information. We can see some gameplay here, right? So right away, how long is this thing? This is like a minute long. So yeah, I mean, my very common advice is like, just think of your demo reel as being very, very teasery. Just give like the briefest taste of how awesome you are, and just invite people, like welcome them in to learning more about you. And the risk you run, the longer your demo reel gets, the risk you run is that people will stop it or skip ahead or something like that because they've just lost interest in the current thing that's playing, right? So it might be that it's not even that your work isn't good. I'm saying this to anybody, really. It could be like the second clip. Let's say that your second clip is Obliterator, right? Is that what it's called? This game jam thing. Sidechain back on. Done being polite. So this project, it might be that this game just doesn't resemble what someone might be looking for in a collaborator, right? And then in that sense, if it goes on too long, they'd be like, okay, I get it. And so it's like 24 seconds-ish until what? Until like 50-ish, right? So it's like 20, it's almost like half of a minute long reel, if you think of it that way. So that's just kind of, again, up to you to decide, well, is that risk worth it? You know, or could I just make it shorter by 15 seconds and then make the whole thing shorter? And as a result, show all my stuff in a little more of like a shotgun blast teaser trailer, as opposed to like, hey, here's like a big spoonful of like all the things I've worked on. Because if someone sees this and they're like, holy crap, that looked amazing, I want to know more, then they can scroll down, right? And here it is. So you don't need to, this is nice too, the kind of allowing for multiple clicks. You don't need to front load it. You know, you can assume that people will pursue the thing that is most relevant to their interests or you know, to their efforts in finding somebody to work with. Okay, that said, yeah, the work wasn't bad at all. I didn't feel like, I wasn't suffering through it, you know? It really just comes down to like that risk threshold I was talking about. It just comes down to that. So you can decide if you think this is a good length and you're not concerned about people being like, I've seen enough, or what else you got, then leave it. But I think you can't possibly, it couldn't possibly hurt to shorten it. That's kind of where my standpoint is. Okay, so let's look at other presentation stuff like titling. Yeah, it's cool. Again, pretty musically focused. Yeah. Matt Fisher says you can always do longer videos separately with narrated explanations of your implementation. Yes. Who loves that? This guy. I love that stuff. I will absolutely watch those things if they exist. And I didn't look at the other content. We could look at that a little deeper after this. So this is cool. brief look, fade in the thing. This is Orbit Crusher. Also, grats to you on making your own thing. That's super cool and not the most common thing to see. And if you're looking to collaborate with other developers, I think this is the kind of thing that looks very good because you shipped something, you made this thing on your own. You understand. It's kind of like the concept of the restaurant general manager spending a day working each role, like in dish or at the host stand or in bar or whatever, right? Like when you understand what people's jobs resemble, like what their role resembles in a day-to-day capacity, you can just work more effectively with them. So if they see this, they go, oh, this person has like been coding or they've been Unity or they've been whatever, then it just leads to an assumption that your communication with them will be more streamlined. All right, it's cool. Okay, moving on. I like your titles, by the way. This looks great. Good lower third. Good lower third. So good. The first thing I noticed though in this one is that there's an O here and an E here, and that's not even your fault because after this there's an E here and an E here. So, oh well, game jam stuff, game jam troubles, no big. Not your fault, not a big deal. Okay, so this is fine. We have the titling. It says game jam. Brachy's game jam, sure. Composer and time designer, okay, cool. Next, we got time of flies. I did notice this lower third's way down here and not like here with the rest. And I don't know why that is. Because occasionally we'll see titles in different places because there's like some really important thing that's happening right here on the screen, and they might put it like up here or something instead. Excuse me. But I don't know what that thing is. Like, is it this bar you're trying to show or something? I don't think it's super important to show that if that's what you're thinking. Tiny detail, and then same thing here. It's like lower down, right? Compared to the other titles. Just details, small details. The kind of thing I can't hurt, just have consistency there. The Dream Arcade Archive Game Jam 2020. Great. It's very cool you're doing so much game jam stuff. Very cool. The question, though, and now this is a segue into material selection, again, criteria-wise, right, is to consider that when I look at this demo reel, I don't know that I have a solid idea of the kinds of projects you want to be working on, because these are game jam things. And I mean, speaking from my own history, in game jams and stuff, it's super just like off the cuff and random what you end up working on, especially when you're an audio person at a game jam. You often, I can't speak for you, of course, but my own experience, it's often like you just latch onto a team and then work with them on the thing they're making, right? Like it can be very random. At Global Game Jam 2013, I think it was, myself and my co-founder Jeff Tanksock and composer Riley Koenig, who we work with a lot, we rolled into to Global Game Jam at the University of British Columbia, and there's like 500 people on site, right? And we worked on like 19 games or something, just like ridiculous. But that's not to say, I mean, I think that our being there was super helpful. We made a lot of friends, a lot of connections, and some of whom we ended up working with in a more professional capacity. I will absolutely always recommend in non-pandemic times to absolutely go to game jams and meet people and learn what it's like to work in a team and such, right? It's super, super, super helpful and important and effective in terms of your career. That said, it does usually absolutely nothing to help establish an idea of like what you want to be doing. Like if you want to work on like Last of Us Part 2 or something, like games like that, then working on Obliterator, while helpful and important from a team building and connections and so forth standpoint, it is important in that sense. It does nothing to help point out what your future ambitions look like, right? So if you want, I mean, it seems like you want to be doing, this says 4 games, that seems freelance-y. And down here it says, if you're interested in working together, which also seems freelancey. So my guess is you're looking to work freelance, but it's not like really, really, really obvious. And even if you're looking to work freelance, I don't know what kinds of games you want to work on. And here you're saying, if we're a good fit for each other, I think that right now, if you put yourself in the shoes of some developer who's rolling onto your page and thinks, oh, you know what, I'm looking for a sound designer / composer, or one or both of the above, and I'm making like a casino pinball app for iOS or something, just super random. Is that the kind of thing you want to work on? I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But if they're making like the next Braid or something, some indie mega hit, is that the kind of thing you want to work on? Or do you want to work on smaller projects? It's, there might be like a 2-year development cycle on some indie games, right? Or more even. I mean, Meat Boy Forever came out last year and it was like 8 years in development or something. So yeah, it just, the good fit thing, I think that you could probably stand to offer a little more of yourself to indicate what kinds of things you might want to be working on. And redesigns, like you're saying, do you think including a sound redesign in the reel could be a good way of communicating? Yes, exactly. Because in general, redesigns, that's kind of why they exist. Like their function is their whole purpose is to indicate the kinds of things that you're drawn to. Because why would you redesign a project if you're like, I hate this? It's like, here's your redesign of like some indie game like Hyper Light Drifter or something, and you're just like hating every minute of redesigning it, right? That makes no sense. So if you have, if we've seen reels that have like Hyper Light Drifter and like Snake Pass and like various other indie games all redesigned, and it becomes pretty clear, like, oh, this person is obviously pretty interested in the indie space. So if you, again, think from an indie developer's standpoint, if they roll onto your page and see redesigns of those kinds of games, they go, oh, well, I'm working in the indie space and I know these games. So that they'd probably have a connection there. On the flip side, we've also seen reels where they'll redesign, like they redesign, like some Forza game, and then they redesign like a Telltale game, and they redesign some mobile thing, and they redesign like Inside. And there's like completely different projects, and it's kind of like the opposite problem. It's like you've redesigned things, yes, but now I still have no idea what you want to work on. So in general, it's pretty important to consider the kinds of things you want to be working on and make sure that your redesigns like resemble those ambitions, right? And it can be a hard question sometimes to kind of figure out what you actually want to be doing, right? So it's really on your shoulders to try and figure that out, and then help yourself in communicating that. Okay, so what are these things though? We have event games. These aren't in your reel. So we have social mobile games for cinema and other events. Okay. End of the Black Hole. Retro space shooter. Let's go. It seems quiet. Is it quiet? Is that my fault? No, it just is quiet. Right, so this is like all music looks like? That's what you said? Composer, yeah. Cool. Yeah, I like your music. I want to see your SoundCloud now. I'm curious. SoundCloud, let's go. This seems so like epic orchestral, wasn't it? If I recall correctly. Oh, it's so quiet. Oh, not really. Some synth in there. Cool. All right, and just the one. What the heck? Oh, I'm on a playlist. I see. Okay, my mistake. Right, game soundtrack. Skipping ahead. Sorry. We have finite time. Drills and bass. What's up? Cool. See, the thing with game jams too, I kind of glossed over this, Esben. The thing with game jams is that it's really hard to. How do I sum this up? It is good for all the reasons I listed previously in terms of like community and team building and connections, etc. And it's showing that you're obviously involved. It's kind of like with redesigns. Like, why would you go to a game jam if you're not passionate? Like, that's kind of the game jam thing is already doing the job of this text right here. You know, like it's obvious that this is true because you're doing game jams, so you can get rid of it. But again, game jams are like you're under the gun and you're just like, get it done, move on, get it done, move on, get it done, move on. So this reel doesn't really show a whole lot. Like, it shows a bit with your project because that's, of course, you put your all into that, right? Make sure it's as good as it can be. But the rest of the stuff, game jam, like these are cool. And like for the fact they are game jam projects, they're solid, you know, they're good. But I don't have a good sense of like what's your stuff sound like when you don't have like extreme time limitations, you know? Like if we have a redesign, you can work on that redesign as long as you want. I often say on this channel that no project is ever complete, it's only abandoned, right? So what does something sound like when you've chosen to walk away? And this is not you choosing to walk away. This is you choosing to get it done in like 14 hours of work, you know, or like not even work, but like daylight. So that's the second big thing that I would point out from that perspective. Like, I would love to know, because your stuff under the gun is solid, you know, it's not like flawless, but it's solid. So I'm really curious what your stuff sounds like when you have, you know, months of time to polish it up, right? Okay, so I guess we can move into some content quality stuff. I mean, it's game jam, so I feel kind of bad even like knocking anything in a game jam project because I've been there, and it's like if the sound even gets in the game, it's like, holy crap, you know, we did it. The game has sound. But I guess for the sake of the argument, we'll talk about that a little bit. Why not? Let's go in this first clip here. Yeah, cool. So you asked about like a sound redesign. I mentioned previously, kind of quickly mentioned it previously, that this is a pretty music heavy reel. And I think that was my first thought when I finished watching it the one time. I was like, that seemed really music heavy. And I think it was kind of not even like actively thinking this way, but just the fact that the one thing that is in fact fully fleshed out, in respect to my previous point, is this music thing, right? Like the rhythm game, of course, is going to be heavily influenced by the musical choices. That said, the sounds are cool; they work. Wow is nice. It's kind of like that game 140. Like the sound effects of the environment are all kind of based on the music. So, yeah, 10.8. Yeah, exactly. It's not 5.4. It's more 10.8. You're correct. I was counting in my head gamma la tacky tacky gamma la tacky tacky. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. I'm certain that, like right there, that's a good example. But this thing flashes. But we kind of let the music do the heavy lifting, you know? So it's still really music heavy. All the sound effects of things like hitting, it's the snare, or it's the kick, or it's like the bass hit, or like the chimey thing or whatever, right? So this clip doesn't really give me a great sense of what your sound design chops look like. If you're looking to freelance in the indie space, or just for mobile devs or whomever, then like your style is absolutely hireable. It's really cool. There's a lot of market for it. We'll put it that way. Cool. Right, so if I give you like feedback on this one, I mean, the first thing I thought, my cursor, there it is. The first thing I thought, and also listening to the SoundCloud mix, was that it seemed really centered. But again, it's a game jam, so like I don't know if you had limitations or whether it was technical or just time. But for a game like this, where of course, like myself, having worked at third-party studios my whole career, basically, like either my previous one or now with Power Up for almost, we're in our 9th year now. We've worked in like a wide variety of stuff, and oftentimes when it comes to things like beginning the project and deciding how things will sound, like how mono or how stereo or like how 3D or how 2D things might sound. It's one thing we take into consideration is like how often the perspective changes, or if it changes. So something like this, where it seems like, at least for this clip, we have this ship that's like chilling in the middle kind of all the time, right? Like it's always right in the center. And again, heavy disclaimer, it's a game jam game. I understand this. Moving on. When you have a project like this, where all the action, as far as the things that are making sound in this scene, all the action is like right in the center, then I would consider it a pretty heavy, like impetus to widen everything else in the soundscape. So we have music that is like super wide and leaving, kind of like a valley in the middle. And then that is filled up by all the action, because it's like, here's the thing that's moving around the center. Hopefully it sounds sweet if this is a fully fleshed out project. And you have like, the different movement of like turning and accelerating and braking or shooting or whatever you do in this game. And then even this stuff here, like shooting at things, they're blowing up in the middle, right? So you have in front of us, assuming that you are allowing to have sound in space, right? That old problem. But if you listen to your music mix, again, it's a game jam, but your music mix is like pretty kind of like middle 50% of the mix, like of the stereo field. Yeah, no? So as a result, all this like and so forth in the center and shooting stuff and things blowing up and just all the activity in the middle is like just resting on top of this kind of cluttered mess. It's not like brutally muddy, but it could certainly be a lot clearer. And literally, I have a feeling that even if you like cheated and just applied like a spread plugin to your music, like to the final mix, and then put that as the track instead, it would probably sound like really clean, like by comparison. Just because it is just kind of taking this mound and like widening it, just flattening it out and leaving more space in the center for that sound to occupy, right? It's always that kind of consideration of like you have this cup and you need to be wary of overfilling it. And that applies to both your positions in the stereo field, just for amount of sound, as well as like frequency content. So you can, have too much bass, too much treble. Okay, moving on. I love this project idea, by the way. It's super cool. It made me laugh. His face is pretty funny. And the arm. It's very, very game jammy. And the music is perfect. Super cool for a game jam environment. But again, the sound design here is, and that's it. I guess there's some low impact stuff there. But again, game jam, and again, it's like two sounds we're hearing. So it's hard to adjudicate your sound design ability. One thing I will say is that for this seems kind of rhythm gamey. I can't tell if it is entirely, but it seems pretty musically, focused from a sound design perspective. Like sound design in terms of like like audio design, the whole game's audio, right? Sound and music. It seems pretty heavy on the music camp. But your sound effects, like the things that are like atonal, like the rotation of these rings and such. It's good. Like it seems like you've chosen that frequency center on that. It's like there. It's like right there, Good. Yeah, you're obviously very versed in music and you're making, musically informed decisions when it comes to your sound design. So cool. I just wish I had more sound design to look at. That's all. It's often the case when people say composer / sound designer that they're leaning on one of those two things, like leaning on sound design or leaning on music. And right now, it seems like you're leaning on music, but I just don't have enough information. I can't tell. And there are those unicorns out there that can do both and are amazing at them, but it is not a given at all. It is way, way more common to kind of for me to roll in and suspect that they are using one as a crutch and using like their kick-ass music to cover up their their lesser skills in sound design. Because of course you got to dump time into this stuff to get better at it, right? So maybe they just haven't put as much time into sound design yet. Makes sense. And yes, that's often the case. Like probably a solid 80% of the time, if it says composer / sound designer, I assume that they're going to be music heavy, and then it is. So this reel kind of is that, but I wouldn't go so far to be like, oh, well, for sure Esben is like a bad sound designer. I just don't know at this point. So I would love to see what your sound design work might sound like. Again, if you have limitless time and you focus something like entirely in sound design, that'd be really interesting to see. Right, and the thing is, at that point, you're also faced with with the. Okay, I gotta take a step back here. This comes up on Real Talk a lot as well. For the same reason I just said, that usually there's a crutch involved. It's a question of like, do you actually want to do both those things? And if you do want to do both those things, then cool. I mean, from what I've heard, it seems like you certainly have a start and it sounds okay. But again, it's pretty musically focused, so it's hard to tell. But just realize that you don't have to do both those things. If you're, I'm not suggesting that I think you do think that, but if you do think that, you don't have to. There is a market out there to hire like only a composer or only a sound designer. Like Power Up does a lot of only sound design. It's probably a good, 80% of what we do, or plus even. And so it's much more common for us to be collaborating with like Ben Prunty on Subnautica Below Zero, or with, Danny Baranowski on Brace Yourself Games projects. It's very common. And so it's really up to you to decide, like, okay, no, I do love both these things. I want to do both these things. You can't stop me. In which case, have at her, right? It's certainly not impossible. Okay, so then the last thing, this being distinction, like, are you standing out in a positive way? I mean, yeah, I think you're standing out, but it's one of those tragic scenarios of like, I'm interested, but I want more information, but it's not here, Like if I click this thing here with the obliterator, we have, this is a minute, it's 4 minutes of, this looks like probably the Game Jam upload, right? Like here's the thing we made. Yeah, your musically informed sound design is like really tasteful too. It's nice, which is not a given. Like that little pickup there, like pa-ting, is nice. It's pretty cool for a Game Jam game, honestly. But again, it's for a Game Jam game, right? Okay. So yeah, there's no additional commentary, it looks like. Forgive me, I can't recall who said this in chat. Someone said this. Was it Ashton or Matt? I think it was Matt. Yeah, saying you can do longer, like narrated commentary videos. Like, hey, here's this cool thing I did. Pretty neat, right? Like that can go a long way to helping people like get to know you and seeing a little more of your problem solving ability and how you approach things. Just hearing your passion in your voice as you're speaking about it, that kind of thing can go a long way. So yeah, I think that you're if for example you were to apply to, let's say like, I had a game I was making and you applied, I might look at your stuff and be like, I can't really tell if you're there yet, so it's hard for me to make a call. But if I were like making a second game or like hiring again in 6 months and you reapplied, I would absolutely want to see what you've been working on. So I would probably recall your name and want to see it again. But I don't know that I would consider you like immediately hireable, where it's like, oh yeah, obviously hire Esben, which is what you want to be, of course. You want to get to that point. Right. So, feel free to go to sleep and not watch Mike's review. Also, we're going to jump over to his now. But if you have any other questions or follow up stuff or whatever, feel free to hit me up on Twitter, below, or where we've already been chatting is totally fine. Happy to chat more, okay? So thanks a lot, man. Very nice. Orbit Crusher, congrats on that. It's pretty cool. All right, so yeah, I'll mention too, that coming from a guy who, I didn't make it all myself, mind you, I wasn't solo. My brother did a lot of the development in Flash and such. But my game Phonopath, which is now not playable due to Flash being antiquated, I gotta get it ported or something, port it to Unity or someone, pay some students to do that for me. Yeah, Phonopath I made like 9 years ago. It released 9 years ago yesterday. Crazy, right? The 9-year anniversary of that weird ass audio puzzle game. Okay, let's move on. Thanks for the nice feedback and suggestions in chat. Yes, thank you, chat, as always. Phonopath broke your brain. Oh, I'm sorry, Presley. Your brain's fine. Your brain seems to have recovered. You'll be all right. Okay, Michael Michael S. Smith, composer and sound designer. Again, round 2. So I've been telling you all my feelings of composer/sound designers, and we will see if it holds true for you. I love when I'm wrong, so I hope I'm wrong, but we shall see. Okay, we got home, project, music, gallery, downloads. Downloads is a unique one. We'll see what's there. Powered by. Okay, classic. It seems pretty WordPressy. It's all right though. We got CV long and short. Mike.noisemod. Okay. So Michael Smith is a composer. No, a bit larger here. Michael Smith is a composer and sound designer based in San Diego. 2 spaces. I would see those. Pet peeve. San Diego, California. His experience includes composing for instruments and electronics, recording, studio and field, live sound reinforcement, sound design, and game audio implementation. All right. He has received music degrees from University of Delaware, University of Florida, and University of North Texas. Busy man. As an educator, Michael has taught various courses, including audio recording, listening and analysis, audio for video games, introduction to electroacoustic music, and acoustics. Wide variety. His doctoral research involves the development of VR Soma, an application for designing spatial audio within virtual reality. That's pretty cool. That's certainly a hot topic at the moment. Skills, Reaper, Pro Tools, Logic, recording, etc. Okay. Oh, Fmod. Nice. Wise. C Sound. Really? Okay. Finale, Sibelius, Pure Data, QLab. This is getting more and more obscure here. C Sound. That's pretty like nerd cred right there. Nice. C# coding. Okay. Good stuff. Your smiling face. There it is. Projects. Okay, so Mike, you said, I'll go ahead and say I'm not really interested in composing music for games. It's my personal, I guess, like hobby. I would much rather do sound design for games. Okay, cool. Well, I'll say right away that putting composer first does not imply that. It's like a psychological thing, but saying I'm a composer and sound designer. People say composer and sound designer all the time. It's not very common to see I'm a sound designer and composer. It's probably, I mean, this is definitely off the top of my head, but it seems like probably 10% of the time you see sound designer first, if you see the pair of them at all. It's very unusual. Let's see. So yeah, we'll come back to the homepage in a second here, Mike. We'll talk about that. But for the moment, I want to just have a glance at your page on the whole. Okay, Unity, make it bigger. Unity things. Cool. All right. I kind of like this. It's like, hey, you're here. What do you like to hear about? Well, I like writing. Let's hear about that. Interesting. Okay. We got recordings. Classic bowed cymbals. Nice. Yo! It's a contact instrument. Sick. Are all of these contact instruments, or are they just like sample packs? Crystal glasses. Oh, you can't get enough of that. Excellent. Max MSP. You know, I've never delved into Max MSP at all. I probably should. One of those things I just haven't ever gotten around to, you know? Sample packs. Got it. Your website's currently also serving the purpose of applying for academic positions, so it's hard to separate everything. Interesting. Okay. Music. See, also, if you're looking to be sound design first, yeah, so that's the question then. Like, what do you... The website should be designed to serve a certain goal, right? So what you say it's currently serving the purpose of, so is that what you want it to be serving the purpose of? Or do you want to be like landing a sound design gig or something? Because that'll change. Well, it will likely have pretty considerable effects on like how you control like flow and navigation and such, right? What kind of information you even want present. Oh, I'm parched today. What's going on? Too many salty things. You're a bit lazy with not making another website. Okay, I mean, yeah, sure. That's a very common thing. Not very common. It comes up occasionally. You'll have someone who is working in like not even like composer slash sound designer, but like composer slash photographer. And from that angle, it's like, okay, well, cool. That's awesome that you're doing those things, and awesome that you want to show it off. But are you looking to, and not even like this as a hobby, like as like a photography business, for instance, but how many people are going to visit your page and like for them have it relevant to like, both those things, right? Like it's unlikely they'll be like, oh, sweet, I do need a composer and I also need a photographer. Like it's not the most common thing. So for this, you're thinking, well, is someone going to roll in and need to, be looking at your stuff from like a hiring an academic position and also hiring a game sound designer, right? Like it's not the most common thing or ever going to happen. So yes, I agree with your implied position that it's probably worthwhile to have a second site that is more geared towards the kind of person that would be visiting and you want to appeal to, right? Just as an out of respect of their time. That's really what it comes from. Like more than anything else, more than just being effective at delivering the most pertinent information. Of course, you want the content to be like germane to that person, but it's it really comes down to just respecting people's time. Because if someone is looking to hire for a gig, that means they're busy, they need help, and they probably have a lot of applications. Like literally 100 plus or hundreds easily. It can happen. So the more, the less you're trimming fat, the more chance they have of A, just being overwhelmed and not seeing the most important stuff, or B, A, being overwhelmed, B, just like not seeing the things you want them to see because there's too much to look at, or they're kind of like just going the wrong place or something, as opposed to like heavily focusing their attention on the thing you need them to see first. Okay, so you're also right. So you would like a sound design position, but your recent experience is more in teaching, right? That's what I gathered from your bio there. I'm also working on some additional game audio stuff, redesigns, and tech audio video. Sweet, yeah. Great. The background you have seems pretty varied, and I'm sure you have a lot of like a great perspective on many problems you might encounter in audio, right? So that's great. That background can't possibly hurt. Unity stills. Right, so like this page probably isn't super relevant to someone who's looking to hire for a sound design position, right? No, it's like, hey, it's cool, it's interesting, but it's not like, it's just not immediately relevant. So it comes down to, is this still important to you to make sure you've included this? This is the same thing. I recognize that from your page. Similar. Downloads. Right, we saw this elsewhere, but I guess it's a more direct link to it or something. Okay. All right. Yeah, so it seems that there isn't a whole lot to look at when it comes to sound design, but we'll go to your home here and we'll see. So we got, right, I am turned up. Turn off my side chain. And we'll go full screen here. Let's go. It's a minute 15. All right. Whoa! I yelled whoa, and I was holding back laughing a bit because after our entire kind of intro with the rest of your site and also just talking to you in the chat, just for some reason I didn't expect to see Doom Eternal as your opening clip. Just really caught me off guard. All right. Yeah, it wasn't bad. It's cool. I certainly have notes, but it wasn't. Yeah, I didn't suffer through it. Not at all. Doom Eternal. Yeah, it's just funny. It's cool. The intro kind of being on par with like the VR Soma stuff was interesting. I'm not sure if that was an active choice or not, but that's kind of how I interpreted it. Right, okay, so Doom is a bold redesign. There's a lot going on here, and that game sounds great. So, of course, with any redesign, it should be, as we just finished saying during Esben's review, it should be, playing the role of showing how sick you are, but also showing what kind of stuff you want to be working on. So, with the presence of this clip, there's only the 3 clips in this demo reel. There's a VR Soma thing you've been doing. There is this solo development space fighter demo, okay, Unity and Wise. And we have this sound redesign. So with the sound redesign, I am assuming, it is my natural assumption, that you want to work on a game like Doom Eternal. That said, your solo project is like, it's kind of, it's a parallel, like still kind of AAA-ish. You could be working for a team like Cloud Imperium or whatever, like doing some space game like this that is, not entirely unlike a game like Doom Eternal or something like that. But more videos. This is a YouTube thing. Yeah, it's like, hey, I want to see Raising. Yeah, I don't want to see this. Sorry. We see Michael Smith though. Founder of Michael Smith Incorporated. Is that you? Thanks, YouTube. Yeah, maybe you do. Tuba Hero. It's very possible. Yeah, so let's talk presentation first. So we got this video. I'm going to go to YouTube instead so I can go like this view. Okay, so it's a minute 15. I still think that a minute is probably ideal for someone at your, at your point in your career, like your position in your career. In general, the longer someone's been doing stuff, the more they can justify a longer reel, because usually their reel is a little more in depth. It ends up being like a TED Talk kind of thing, more than just a demo reel. So yeah, up to you, but I feel like with this content, it's only 3 things. It probably doesn't need to be this long. It's a bit of a, like for me personally, it's definitely like I made an audio only demo, like a SFX demo reel a long time ago. I might even have it. Give me 30 seconds. See if I can find this. I think I can find it pretty quickly. I might be wrong. No, wrong place. 1 second. I'm sure I have this. I want to find it now because I want to show you how poor my own perspective was a long time ago. Is this it? Come on, man. I didn't prepare this. I'm so sorry. Oh, man. No, it could be in one last place. 1 second. I really want to find this. I don't think I'm going to, though. Oh, no. I'll find it for next time. Oh, man. No, I don't have it. It's not here. It's somewhere. Anyways, the point being that my my sound effects reel was 2 minutes long. It was 2 minutes and sound effects just back-to-back montaged forever only. And I played it for a peer of mine in sound design. He was like, this thing is stupid long. It's like, you're asking a lot of people just to like listen to random sounds for 2 minutes straight, you know? And it's true. It's a bit of an ego check because for me, I was like, oh, it's so sweet. I love these sounds so much. And in the end, you got to try to just trim fat and be as effective as possible in like the minimal time, right? So you're hoping to replace the VR Soma clip with something shorter and move it to a tech audio focus video. Okay, yeah. So that sounds great. Sure. Again, like my feedback to Esben, just think of your opening video as like the hook. Get them interested, pull them in, and then show the thing in like a longer form elsewhere. Because if they want to see more of it, they will seek it out. You know, just trust in yourself that your stuff is worth looking at in a deeper capacity. All right. Okay. So we got the lower thirds. Sure. I mean, this is like, I don't love the square thing. I really love Espen's lower thirds, just like the basic opacity, black transparency thing. It's really nice. It can be also internal. I just saw it right now. Doom internal. This is a brutal typo. Get that fixed. It can be a, courtesy to include also just things like, id software next to this. Just say who worked on it. You're using their stuff to develop yourself professionally. So just a courtesy to them, say, hey, Doom Eternal, id software, here's a sound redesign, all right? Just looks a little more complete too. This is it's a little bit too abridged right here. We got, Space Fighter demo, solo dev, sounds and implementation. Implementation is spelled right. It's often spelled wrong. Unity Wise, just small thing. Wise, the second W is lowercase, I believe. If I'm not crazy, I am correct. Small typo again. It's what do you call that? There's a word for this. It's like word print or something like that for like the style of capitalization that companies prefer for their names. Moving on, we got VR Soma. Great, cool, good. All right, and then here's you. I was sad that we didn't have a designed outro also. I felt like it was a cut corner. But up to you, again. Just seems like a missed opportunity for showing more cool audio things. Given that you're in the sound space, just use that time. It's a blank canvas for you, Make some cool stuff. Okay, so let's move into, I guess, like material selection. We kind of touched on already, just saying it seems like you want to work on AAA. Is that true? I didn't see you confirm or deny that in the chat. You said sci-fi focused game would be ideal. So something AAA though, right? Like a larger team? As opposed to smaller freelance gigs, like working for a studio. Right. I mean, this is a good start. The solo dev thing, given it's solo dev, it's not going to be as fleshed out as a project like Doom. So it probably wouldn't hurt to have something like something else that's in the same vein as this, but a little more like, here's a sound redesign of like Elite Dangerous or something like that, right? Where it's a little more kind of like, here's the polished product that you, the person I'm applying to or the team I'm applying to, the thing that you are making, and here's me redesigning it. And look how well we can work together. Like that goes a long way. I know we've had multiple people who have been on as guest hosts who love seeing their own stuff redesigned, and they're happy to see it, right? It's just realize that you are going to be compared with anything redesigned. You're going to be compared with the original, right? So make sure you're doing it justice, so to speak. You are working on an Elite Dangerous redesign right now. Well, I know you so well already, Mike. There you go. Good on you. There you go. I'd love to see it when you're done. I'd love to check it out, of course. So let's actually look at this clip from a design standpoint, like content standpoint. I'm not a AAA guy. I'm not like a guns guy really, but I will try and give you some feedback if I can. So the main bit of feedback, I was thinking this when I first watched it, and then I'm feeling a little stronger about that now that I was correct in my assertion. Watch the whole thing first, though. Right, so that's definitely this is like aping the original game a lot. This eye pluck got a lot of, it was very divisive, very polarizing when the game came out. Because I believe it is like a kind of sound when it comes out, right? Like a cork pop. And people thought that was a departure from the direction of the game, like being very like gory and visceral. So I think this would be a good opportunity. This is, again, only one man's opinion. I think this is a good opportunity to like do your own take on it and not just kind of do the same thing. Because with redesigns, there's two reasons for doing redesigns. Well, two main, there's many reasons, of course, but one is just like personal development. I definitely have, broken down sounds and looked at them from different angles and like looked at the spectrogram and stuff, and from like, fractions of a second to second to say how they make this sound like this. And that's a great way to like learn that tool set so you can apply it to your own work in the future. It's not unlike playing like jazz improvisation and me playing trumpet and like learning some Louis Armstrong solo so that I can learn how he did things so I can apply it to my own solos in the future, right? It's the same idea. It's like taking the building blocks to create something new. So you can do that, but when you're doing redesigns for this purpose, like making it sound as awesome as possible in the effort of being hired, this approach, I would encourage you to approach things from a creative, like from a specifically creative kind of standpoint of motivation. Like you should be looking to make something that reflects the kind of sound design that you do, and not like, hey, here's me doing the thing that you did. Like it's a very small discrepancy, but like this specifically, I was like, oh, it's like the pop from the original game, and so I don't think it's a great look. It's very possible someone from id would disagree, but I think that because it is like a nod to like, hey, I saw what you did. Here's me doing it also, but I don't think it's helping you. I think that doing something, especially because this was so like loved and hated, I think you'd be forgiven if you did like a purely like something gross and squelchy when the eye comes out. But that was not the point I was making previously. The point I was making previously is that I think your mix is a bit like general, and I think you could use a little more contour and focus. Gameplay redesigns are hard. Like they're a lot of work to be playing with panning and make sure things sound like correct in the space, and to make it sound hopefully what is technically possible to sound like in an actual gameplay capacity. In this case, I think that of all the things in your mix, like over time, it's like pretty this and like, thing like a bit louder and like more and like a little louder and more. I think that in general, having more of this would be excellent, because for a game like this that is so dynamic from like moment to moment action, it's important from a game design standpoint to like inform the player of what is happening around them so they can make the right choices. Choices like turn around, there's a monster behind you, or like turn to your left, shoot that thing in the face. It's when you have this like general kind of background of like monster noises and stuff, it's not really telling the player anything. So while I like that you had this attention to like this ambient space and making sure that like, yes, it's not just the thing right in front of the camera that's making the sounds, right in front of like the player, in the middle of the screen. There are things in the environment too making noise. There's more to consider when it's not just like, some cutscene of like a one-on-one battle happening in the midst of like a massive battlefield. Like, yes, you can have generalized background ambience of like soldiers yelling or monsters screaming or whatever. You can do that because we're not seeing any of it. But because we're seeing the space in this case, it's not like this din of monsters. There are individuals at play. So when you have like we turn a certain way and you just hear like generalized monsters, it's not really helping the player to know that there's something that's right next to them that's dangerous, you know? So in general, if you listen to this one more time, listen to like how loud the loud things are, like the most important thing in the mix, how loud that is compared to like the quietest thing in the mix. Like that dynamic range, I think is pretty narrow or pretty, you know, it's low. It's a low dynamic range. It could be much higher. So let's listen again for that. Right, so what was loud? The player stuff. Like all the player sounds are loud, and they probably should be, and that's good. But the majority, if we were to like mute the player sounds on a bus or something, I kind of suspect that the mix would be like just straight across. Because there's certain moments like this here, there's like a swipe from this enemy. It's like this guy, I think. This moment right here. This swipe happens. And like we don't hear that, but that's a big moment. Like if you were on the receiving end of that thing, it's gonna hurt, you know? We hear like a but that's kind of it. We don't really hear like the moment of the dangerous thing happening. And in fact, listen to the general ambience, just like the background and stuff on the hard left and right. Like it definitely comes across to me as faked, if that's a valid term to use. Like it seems like there is a designed background track of monsters that is playing at hard left and right at all times. Or not hard left and right, but like the full stereo field at all times. But there's moments like this where we're like against a wall and there's nothing, like there's nothing over there. There's nothing to the right. So that's why I'm saying that gameplay redesigns they're challenging. That's why I was saying this is a bold redesign. It's a hard redesign. This is a great piece to redesign because it's a good kind of flow of gameplay. Like it hit the monochrome thing happens briefly. Like it's good from that standpoint, but just realize that it's a lot to bite off and there's a lot to consider here. So the background stuff is the kind of thing that like sounds good until it sounds wrong. And there's certain moments where it's not like accurate to what I think it should be sounding like. So it calls itself out and it's like, hey, look at me. I'm not quite right. And it's like that kind of jarring moment when you're watching a film and you're like pulled out of the immersion, right? Yeah. So apart from that, I think that in general, again, I'm not a guns guy. So the hero moments, like the chainsaw thing, sounds great. Super cool. You have a good like broadband range there. The chainsaw is definitely doing the heavy lifting in that respect. But if we go ahead to the eye pop thing, the pop, the cork pop aside, we'll look at like the end splode, for instance. So like that end, I don't really get a sense that it like, it's the classic close your eyes test, right? Like everyone close your eyes right now. Like what happened there, on that splat, the gore sound? What was the size of it? What was the location of it? What was it made of? How immediate was it? How explosive? I don't think that it was quite, something popped in the toilet, says To Be Hero. I don't think that it's quite accurate to what we're seeing. It's kind of a bit understated compared to like this thing is pretty big, and it's like it's happening instantly. So there's a little more room there for some contour on the transient and in the highs, more than this like. So yeah, I think that in general, you've got some strong design here, but it's there's certainly room to, because yeah, the weaker stuff is mainly weaker because you're not calling it out. Like you're keeping it pretty low in the mix, like the enemy sounds that are more important to the player and such. Like this is so quiet. Again, close your eyes on that one. How far away is that? Like how small is that gun? Yeah, there's certainly a lot to talk about in this clip that, you know, I can go on about like detail work and such, but I think that the biggest one is getting like the mix a little more, just being more mindful of the mix over time, like dynamic range, dynamics of things over time, and like the importance of certain elements over others as the mix goes by, and trying to sculpt that so that the most important thing to the player is at the front of the mix over time. That's your goal as a sound designer, really. I think that's the most important thing to focus on moving forwards, man. So we're now at 5:32. How'd this happen? Oh my God. All right, so I guess, yeah, the question being, are you standing out in some positive way? Hello? Are we crashing now? I think Chrome's crashing. Oh, it's gone. It took a while. I think it's still crashing. It's very slow right now. It's hurting. There it is. Well, we're just going to leave it. Right, so are you standing out in some positive way? I think that you're not quite yet, but I think it's just due to the focus thing you were talking about previously, you know? Just being that, in your own words, you're too lazy for a second sight. I think having a site that says like, no, I am a sound design focused individual, and having things that are more accurate to what your current skill sets are, and just being a little more up to date with why this site exists, you know, like what your goals actually are currently, and putting a little more thought into your reel to help support that. As you were saying, the VR Soma thing is pretty academic. It's definitely interesting and certainly relevant, and I think it doesn't have like, it's not that it doesn't have a place in your reel. It's just that I'm not sure that you have enough that is pointing towards like what your actual, you know, being hired somewhere goals are when it comes to sound design. Right. So thanks a lot, man. And of course, with reviews like this, we often end up like focusing in one area like quite a lot. So if you do have any questions about things that perhaps we glossed over, just didn't touch at all, then feel free to reach out again on Twitter or elsewhere or whatever. Happy to talk. Okay. All right. Thanks a lot. One more of these for Mike and Esben. Thanks, pals. And I'm going to go ahead and put on some Danny B again. Let's go. Be nice. All right. Thanks, everyone, for rolling in and watching. We're going to have to host Games Done Quick now because AGDQ is ongoing. What are they at right now? Let's see this. Games Done Quick. They are at... Oh, they broke the mill. Sick. They're at 1,013,000. And we have Sasquatch Sensei currently playing Halo 3. Oh, they made the Halo 3 incentive. Awesome. They had to make like 160 grand to get there. So, killer. We'll host them. Thanks everyone for hanging out, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for another show like this one. All right. Cheers.